There's my bunch. How's everybody? Good to see everybody tonight. Great day. Hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody has returned to some. I know some of you'll never return to normal, but somewhat normal, got back in a routine. Mindy, how are things in the West?
They seem to be getting back to normal for the most part around here.
Good. I saw a video yesterday and I thought about you. Little mountain community, they'd use flatbed trailers to make them a bridge to get across the creek.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess people are learning to adapt and survive. They opened a sewer plant yesterday back here in Lake Lure, Chimney Rock area. So that'll help get things back to normal here. Here at my condo complex at Lake Lure, half of us are on sewer and half of us are on septic. Thank goodness for me, my half's on septic, so I've been able to be here, but most folks couldn't come back until today because of the sewer plant being shut down. So that's going to help get things back to normal in this part of the world. Hey, Lordy. So prayers for everybody. So let's talk about where we are with our course. I think we meet tonight and then 2 more weeks. And so let me share my screen. Welcome everybody. Let me see if I can find, I got a lot of stuff pulled up here. Right here. So tonight is the 29th. Cyber issues, bullying, sexual infractions tonight. Then next week, discipline, due process. The week after, interviewing. We'll do student conduct, and then when we get together on the 23rd, will be our last weekend together, and we will do your case studies on Saturday, and on Sunday we'll do TD Jakes on leadership. So that's where we are. So we got tonight and 2 more, and then our weekend together. We'll have to figure out, we'll talk maybe next week about our last weekend a little more in depth. So that's where we are with our course, where everybody's on track. Our stars of the week, on the OMA is, of course, Beth. She's already completed tasks 1 and 2. I'm quite sure she was the little girl in pigtails that sat up front in class, and so she's staying true to form. That's probably of misogynist and of my time, but I always think about, the brightest, the best and the brightest, and I'm sure you all are. As I said, you EDCI people, I love working with y'all because y'all were so bright and write so well and catch on so quick. So I'm not surprised. So congratulations to Beth. Now let's talk about our discussion boards. Let me go to, I've got some of these saved that I wanted to highlight. Let's see, which one is this one? 3, 2, 1. All right, whose is this? This is Anne Marie's. I highlighted a lot of things on this one. So she's the star of the week on this one in terms of some things that we want to talk about. Let me get up here all the way to the top. There was a lot of things in this one. So she checked on all the emergency status. They did pretty good as a county, but the individual schools had a lot of gaps. This falls under one of the administrative axioms that the LS people that we operate under is, just because people know better don't mean they'll do better. That's what they hire us for, is to make sure that people are complying and doing what they're supposed to do. That leads to those critical conversations. And she pointed out several gaps in the local one that they had in their plan. And that's what you're supposed to do. The county, the district will make a plan, and then they hand that countywide plan to you, and then you're supposed to take and implement and customize that for your school. It appears that they didn't do a very good job with that at this school. And when she asked about the budget, he said he was new. Well, see, that's never an excuse. In the LS world, you're only new till lunchtime the first day. After that, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And unless it's about 10:30 on the first morning you get there, you're not new. You're just incompetent. That's the way it works. You've already signed over and done all the paperwork and went to the bank and got the checks and done all those things, and they've sworn you in. You're responsible. You can't complain that I don't know because I'm new. That's my first time. That's not how that works. And what was even more concerning, he didn't know anything about budgeting, but he thought accounting for the funds was budgeting. Budgeting's how you plan to spend the money. Accounting's what you spend it for, the streams. So obviously that's not very good. Again, budgeting is how you plan at the local level to spend your money. Cars accessing the bus, that happens everywhere until you make them quit. And then when you get a kid run over, you used to be a school administrator. And parents will do that. They'll drive on the sidewalk if it can get them through the line a minute faster. And I don't know why in the world, as I've told you before, why everybody in the world thinks they have to bring their kids to school now, but they do, and they're all late or behind. I mean, it's just like I tell those high class ladies at the big house in my neighborhood in Lake Norman. I don't know why in the world you don't let your kids to ride the school bus to school. How in the world else are they going to find out about sex if you don't let them ride the school bus? I mean, there's a reason why we do that. It saves a lot parents. It saves us a lot of awkward conversations. But nobody does that anymore. And you have to. I'm serious on this one. If you get a child hit or killed at a school, you can't survive it as a school administrator. You got to keep the cars out of the bus lot, and the parents will not do it on their own. No amount of telling them or putting up signs will do it. You physically have to stop them. And obviously they need a structured dismissal protocol where kids just that's not good. Lapses in door security. Again, we know the last mass killing, prop door, broken door, same at the same school. The prop door let them in, the broken door let them in the room, and that's how all those kids got killed. I like the point that Anne Marie made here. We know unsecured lockers is where kids hide their contraband, but the graffiti, which people say, why should that you get that graffiti? Why is that important? Well, it detracts from a safe and respectful environment because about half of that graffiti is either racist, misogynist, fascist, or it's discriminatory in some way, and that doesn't need to be. That does detract from a safe and respectful environment. So I thought Anne Marie made some really good points here. Anne Marie, I'll open the floor up to you for any rebuttal or anything that you'd like to add to your written project here, which was very good.
I don't think I have anything to add. You're good.
All right. Okay. All right. So that was DB1. All right. Let me go to DB2. And this is Andrews. And what I picked out, again, excellent job, Andrew, on this one. And what I picked out on Andrews, and I want to speak to directly, is Human Resources in Fort Mill School District does not pre-screen applicants, and the principals have the autonomy to review resumes and pick and choose which candidates they feel are most qualified. So what that means in his district is that principals can't accept resumes, I'm guessing, directly from individuals seeking employment, and they do not have to come through HR. Now that's an important point. I worked in 4 school districts during my career, and 2 of those it was that way, and 2 it was the other way, and it was an absolute no-no in the 2 large districts for you to accept or take calls from applicants that had not gone through HR. So that's a great point, Andrew. You got to know what your district, what their policy is on that, because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble on that one. Now, if you're in a district that allows that, that's good. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, but you got to know if your district allows that or not. When I worked in Charlotte and when I worked in Wake, they did not absolutely did not allow that. Everybody had to come through the entire, because they did all the process themselves. I like the two districts that allowed that. I had to do the references. I had to do a lot of the work. So it was, I got to kind of pick who I wanted to do that on. In Charlotte, they did all that for you. So they didn't want you taking applications from people that had not gone through the process. So that's a good catch there. And again, there's 9 separate things that you have to do to hire somebody. The issue is who does those 9 in your district? According to Andrew, they do the background check and the drug testing, and the principal does pretty much everything else. That's fine. You just got to know what it is. But this point right here, I mean, I would see people like at a ball game and they'd try to slip me a resume in Charlotte. Nope, can't take it. In social settings, nope, can't take it, can't do it. That automatically disqualified that applicant from getting hired if they tried to jump the line or do that process. In the small districts, that's perfectly fine. That's a good catch, Andrew. All right, number 3. And this is from Mindy. And this is on intervention. This one is concerning to me, that the person receiving kids as the interventionist doesn't know what the protocol is for those people arriving at her doorstep. Wow. Wow. I think this
That's
might
just
be
one of the many problems I've had with this woman to begin with. This was just a long line of issues that I've seen with her.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here the rest of the night and talk about the problems from this, the abuses that could occur, the gaps. That one is mind blowing to me. That the person receiving the referral as the interventionist doesn't know how the kid got there, what the protocol was. They just showed up at their doorstep one day. I mean, and she says, I take their recommendations for them needing and just attempt to provide them what I can. What kind of roadmap do you have? What kind of assessments has been done? What specific targeted intervention do you need to do other than they just send them down to your room? Now, full disclosure, and this, don't think better of me because of this, by the way. I'm not a saint. But when I was a high school teacher, I used to get kids like this all the time that couldn't make it in some other classes, and they would just send them to me. I had some kids that pretty much stayed with me all day. I get it. Back in the old days, before there was such a thing as a state test and all those things, if they couldn't behave themselves, they'd send them to the coaches. And I'd try to teach them a little science or biology or something, whatever it was. I mean, I taught biology for idiots mostly, and or I'd put them out in the chem lab or something and try to teach them something. I mean, I guess that was the early version of intervention. I don't know if it really was or not. It was just behavior management. But that's not not a plan. That's just hope. We can't run schools on hope. That's what this is. This is just hope. That's not the way to run school. I'll just tell you, that is not the way to run school. But that's a good catch. I hate to hear that, but all too often, our intervention plan is just hope. It's not very well planned out. We don't really know. And this is an example of that. Mindy, I'll give you the floor if you want to speak to this.
So honestly, I'm not sure how this woman has a job anyway, because I have had several issues with her and several teachers have leading up to this ever happening. And I will say that after conducting this interview and after reaching out to different staff members at the school to see like who was in charge of MTSS, because at this point I didn't even know who was over the MTSS at our school, which I think is also an issue when you don't know who's in charge of it. And they had sent me to the woman who's in charge of our curriculum and instruction. And so I asked her if I could interview her, and she was like, well, I don't know if I can answer your questions. I'll have to find someone who can. And I was like, well, this doesn't look good for our school for MTSS right now. And then within like 24 hours after me talking to her, it posted online that we were hiring for like a chairperson or a head of our MTSS. And I was like, well, why didn't you just say that? Instead of, acting like y'all had somebody or had filled the position, why didn't you just say you were hiring and then tell me that? Because I can go with that too. But the woman that I ended up talking to is our reading specialist, and she really didn't know, from what I gathered. And I know very little about MTSS. I've been learning about it lately, but she knew even less than I did, I think. And so, with her being the program she works in, it really shocked me. And my admin has been asking me to bring them stuff like the interviews I do and stuff, and I kind of can't wait to show her this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the issue here, again, to be redundant, I know I've covered this before, but in the state of North Carolina, the legislature, the State Board of Education, and DPI, which is their central office, that pulls the law from the legislature and the policy from the State Board of Education, and it's their job to implement and monitor that. That's what the Department of Public Instruction does. It's very consistent in the adjudication that intervention is a school-based committee. That means it's under the direction of the principal of the school. There, as Mindy has pointed out, there's nobody in charge like an EC where you have this structure for exceptional children, which is a federal program. You have to build that structure at your school level, and it's your responsibility. There's nobody from the central office, from the EC department, going to come over and do this. This is not exceptional children. It is a school-based committee. And you have to put all these things in place at your school level. And it's kind of important that you know some of this stuff. And as Mindy said, that you have somebody that's the chair or head of this that puts a system or a plan in place. Otherwise, again, it's just hope. And it seems like they're just dependent on hope here. Well, that won't get you far in this business. Excellent job, Mindy, on that one. And number 4. All right. So this is number 4 on cyberbullying. After reading the policies, I asked my principal how she handles cyberbullying based on policy. She stated that if it's not on a school-issued device, the school recommends the parents take it to the sheriff's office. Is that the law, by the way? No. 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 The device or the location of the device is immaterial according to the law. If it disrupts the school, and if a parent comes and make a report, that would be a disruption. You have to handle it. It doesn't matter what device it's on or where it happened or any of that stuff. So let's refer to the law right quick. The law is very clear. School Violence Prevention Act 2009 says if it creates a hostile or certain created a hostile environment by substantially interfering with the student's educational performance, the school has to handle it. And bullying may be physical, verbal, societal, social interaction, or may be cyberbullying. So the notion that where it happened or the device it was on matters that's just urban legend. That's just a cop out to say I'm not dealing with this. But that is not the law. Absolutely is not the law. You have to deal with it. If a parent brings you a report, you have to deal with it. And your first step ought to be to the school resource officer, because they have warrant powers and they can get cell phones and things like that. Now, my story on that one, and I'll stop my share, is the local high school in the community in Lake Norman. One of the APs that I trained before I retired saw some boys gathered around a cell phone. He he immediately confiscated the cell phone, called the resource officer. The resource officer was able to confiscate the cell phone, had powers, and come to find out they were viewing pictures of nude pictures of middle school girls from the middle school on the same campus. This boy was 18. He was enticing these girls to send him nude photos, and then he was blackmailing them into having sex with him. These were 11, 12, 13-year-old girls. He was 18 having sex with them. He's in prison. He'll be older than me when he gets out. But he knew what was going on, and he didn't just say put it up, or didn't just go over there. He got the resource officer who has warrant powers, and they were able to confiscate the cell phone and get a warrant, and then searched it, and it became a major scandal. Not because I trained him, but he did the right thing. Understanding that that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. That wasn't a school device, but it was happening at school. It was happening at school. It was happening at school. All right, let me share my screen again. So that's do that one. All right, again, school employees, I love this from Heather, are mandated reporters. In the sexual harassment scenario, the Title IX coordinator for the district would be notified, and then would notify the SRO. So, all right, now let's talk about that. All right, so right here's what this is what Heather is referring to. When Title IX was updated in 2021, everybody that gets a check at the school is now mandated reporter. That's what she was referring to. If you don't, you can read about it right here. I've got this in our shell. That's what she's talking about. Now, the question becomes this, though. Is this one of those you report to law enforcement and then the superintendent, or to the superintendent and then law enforcement to make accurate reports to the superintendent? So which is it on the sexual harassment? Well, it says if it's sexual assault, you go law enforcement, then Title IX. But what if it's just sexual harassment? Which way do you go? Well, I'm going to tell you this, and this is completely anecdotal. It's from my own experience of dealing with this on a day in, day out basis for a number of years when I was in central office in Charlotte. Half of the reports that we got for sexual harassment turned out to be sexual assault. Uh-oh. Ew. Which side do you err on here? Do you err on the side of, she said he was sexually harassing me? Well, I'll tell Title IX and then the police. But I've got it backwards if we find out if they find out during the interview that he put his hands on her. Uh-oh, if there was any physical contact, now it just moved up from sexual harassment to sexual assault. The law was clear. I had to tell the police first. Now, most districts will try to buffalo bully you into calling them first, especially the larger districts that have area superintendents who are just little warlords who want to be superintendent somewhere, and they want you to sacrifice your career for theirs. We've talked about that. Don't do it. If it were me, I'm calling the law first every time. Anything sexual, remember, school people are not qualified to do investigations of a sexual nature. Period. Call the law first. I've told you the story that happened at North Mecklenburg. The girl reported that she had been sexually assaulted. Assistant principal didn't call anybody. Instigated investigation, said, wait a minute, this girl is 16. But in the back of the handbook from DPI, it says age of consent in North Carolina is 16 unless you're mentally incapacitated. She was self-contained EC. Uh-oh. She can't consent at any age. Uh-oh. When they went to the police said, "We're sorry, we can't help you." And they went on TV and said the school inappropriately investigated and contaminated evidence. We're quite sure a crime was committed here, but we can't take this to the district attorney because of the evidence has been tainted. They all had to go home. Principal, assistant principal, everybody had to go home. Well, as you know, my wife being the kind EDCI person, she always asks me when I have to do stuff like this. She said, "What happened to them?" I said, "Well, they didn't have to go home, but they couldn't stay with us. I have no option but to let them go." If it were me and I had a report of sexual harassment, especially as in the scenario, a coach to a player, a man to a girl, I'd get law enforcement involved just on the off chance, about a 50-50 chance that he put his hands on her at some point. That one would scare me. But Heather is right. If it's a straight sexual harassment, you do the Title IX, then the police. But about 50% of the time during the investigation, we find out that something physical occurred. Then we're kind of on the hook. Then law enforcement gets really angry that you didn't call them first, that you've already launched an investigation and they weren't called first. Remember, they don't work for you, you don't work for them. And you've got to be able to get along with them. Now, if you call them and tell them, they say, "Oh, you better report that to Title IX," then they can't come back on you. But that one gets tricky. That one gets really tricky. But if it, you know, maybe if it were two students, you know, two 15-year-olds, I'd probably go to Title IX. But a male teacher to a female student, I believe I'd go to law enforcement on that one. Just to kind of save myself. All right. So again, you know that all the things that we've covered in here are in the law on the doing the building safety check every 2 weeks. Again, right here, every 2 weeks it says so. Again, that's why we have to make accurate reports. Again, we have to tell law enforcement certain things first before we tell anybody, the superintendent or their designee. Make sure you understand those. And understand that cyberbullying has nothing to do with the device or the location. It has to do with the content of the bullying. And if a parent comes and makes a report to you, then that is a significant disruption to the school. You have to deal with it. That's been proven out in court dozens of times. You don't get a pass on that. Well, they didn't use a school computer. That's got nothing to do with bullying. Make sure you understand that. All right. I've got several of these. I told you I'm monitoring a case out in Bellingham, Washington, where 3 assistant principals that didn't report sexual inappropriate behavior. They're in a criminal trial, but mostly you get charged civilly, like this one here that didn't report. She pressured the 14-year-old girl to recant her claims of sexual relationship with a teacher, and she's getting a criminal charge. But that's because she pressured the student. There are 3, so she's got a civil and a criminal charge. We understand why she got that. But the 3 in Bellingham, Washington simply didn't report. They didn't illegally intimidate the witness or do any of that stuff. They just ignored the report. And now they're being charged criminally. This one lost, by the way, and got 4 years in prison. She'll be out in 2.5 for good behavior. But what we're talking about now is if you just don't report, even if you don't do something criminal like she did. This one's kind of close to home for Natalie in her part of the world. She was covering up the football coach. He was inappropriate relationship with teachers and students, and the principal knew it and was hiding it. it wasn't, but she went online and tried to defend herself. I don't understand that, but I can't walk in her shoes, but I don't understand that. But he was a predator, had been for years. And the reason I've got this one is to say this to you. A lot of times when you go become an administrator in a school, there have been things like in this case that have been going on forever. Everybody knew what a scumbag he was. I mean, it was common knowledge. But he's now your problem. You've got to deal with it. Friend of mine that grew up just literally a stone's throw from me here, on the fifth hole of the golf course. It wasn't the golf course back when he grew up here. His name was Grover Arthur Wilson Jr. And GA, he passed away 30 years ago at 30 years ago. He's my golfing partner. One of the best friends I ever had in my life. Died early, young. He was principal at Chase High School. Died of cancer at 47. 30 years ago. He grew up in this area. His first administrative job, he got fired from at Christmas. They hired him to fire the football coach, and when he fired the football coach, of course, they fired him. And the ill will in the community went with him, but he did what he had to do. And the thing about it was the football coach was at Polk Central High School. It's now Polk County. They've built a new one, but it was Polk Central. I drove by it this afternoon on my way here. I guess the bridge too far is he had two students pregnant at the same time. It was okay just to have one, I guess, because he was winning ball games. But when he got two girls pregnant at the same time, that was just too much, even in Polk County. So we do know what we know what the tipping point is in Polk. You have to get two students pregnant at the same time. Now, getting two, but if at different times, I guess that's okay, or just one anytime is okay. But when he got two pregnant at the same time, he had to go. And of course, they wouldn't do it themselves, so they hired GA. And then when he got here, they told him, "Oh, by the way, you got to fire the football coach." But wait till after the season is over, he's winning. I can't make that up. I wish I was making that up. You're going to inherit things like this. I told you some of the things that I've inherited over my career. You got to deal with these, but the sexual ones, you got to meet these head on, folks. I'm just going to tell you right now. There can be no delay. There can be no obfuscation. No time to sit and think. You just got to do it, and the chips have to fall where they do. Because if you don't, you may, losing your job's bad, but losing your house or your freedom is worse. This is about not losing your house. So I have no good news on that front. You got to deal with it. You have to meet this one head on. There is a stop bullying website from North Carolina. I'm sure South Carolina probably has one similar. It has all of your laws right here, all your statutes on cyberbullying, hazing, cyberbullying of school employees, all these things. It's all in one handy dandy. I've got the link in our shelf for tonight. So if you're not familiar with all this stuff, there it is. All right, let's see what else I've got. Anything down here? I think that was it on Heather's. Good job on that one. And again, here's the cyberbullying law. It has not been repealed. I've actually had principals tell their students when they went and interviewed them that the law had been repealed. One of the articles, just one out of about 50, was repealed. That was the one. If you're in a if me and Katie are in a Twitter battle, and I'm not too smart and too sharp on Twitter, and she starts beating me on Twitter in the Twitter battle, I can't claim that she's bullying, harassing me, because I entered into a Twitter battle with her. That's the only thing that was removed. Everything else is still in place. And here, kind of to summarize the things that I have, the school's been sued by the parents. This is happening too often now. Kids that are bullied, committing suicide. And then, of course, these people are going to lose, by the way. They're trying everything in the world to settle out of court, but they're going to lose one way or the other because they didn't do anything to keep this kid safe and then tried to cover it up. Somebody may end up in prison over this one. So not only, I mean, you know, this girl killed herself, but that's not the end of it. This one will live on through her, but this one, these people will get they will get their comeuppance. But this is the kind of thing that we're talking about here. And even if the parents don't sue, you can imagine what that would do to you if you had a kid that killed himself because your failure to help keep them safe in the building. All right. So again, I like to credit people's work. I wish I was smart enough to put this stuff together, but I didn't. So Josh made me this one. Josh Sane made me this one, technology, social media, and cyber issues. This is kind of a quick and dirty primer. It's about 23 slides long. I'll try not to sit and read them to you, but we'll go through. And this is, you know, a short version. I showed you all the laws, but this is kind of a summary of the language. Intimidate, harass a person, or cause physical harm to a person. What is bullying and its imbalance of power? Again, verbal, social, physical. Right here, bullying, harassing behavior. A school employee who has witnessed or has reliable information a student or school employee has been subject to any act of bullying or harassing behavior shall report the incident to the appropriate school official. All persons are responsible now. That's the change in the law. Not just certain people. A student or volunteer who has witnessed or has reliable information should report the incident to the appropriate school official. So if you've got volunteers in your building, you need to make sure you work with them on this. Number one, to moderate their behavior, and number two, if they see something, to say something. Again, policy against it. I mean, you see all these different policies and statutes put together. Hazing, cyberbullying, doesn't matter what the device is. That's the notion here, whether it's a camera, over the internet, Twitter, cell phone, Snapchat, school computer, does not matter the device. That's the notion of this slide. Again, I'm belaboring this point, but again, just like Heather pointed out, I still see this every semester where some idiot principal claims that because it wasn't a school device, they don't have to deal with it. That is in no way true. Not even close. Not even close. I hate that I have to have this slide, but we have to. The device is immaterial. The location is immaterial. It's the content of what they do, not the device or the location. See right here, in extreme cases, cyberbullying can lead to suicide. But here are the side effects. And these are not good things for your school. Goes back to what Anne-Marie said, a safe and protected environment in your school. If you're allowing these things, they can't be a safe and protecting environment in schools. Obviously, again, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, all these different places. The penalties, again, that's in the law, the cyberbullying penalties. Bullying, again, this is on that website I showed you what happens if you cyberbullying of school employees by students. This happens a lot, and we classify it as something much less so we won't have to deal with it. But here are the definitions on those. All right. You should find out what the acceptable use policy for cell phones is in your district. and not just rely on, well, we kind of do it this way or we kind of do it that way. And whatever the policy is in your district, I would encourage you to make sure that that's exactly what you enforce. Again, one of the worst cases I've ever seen was on a cell phone. That boy at Hopewell, at Huff High School, he was 18 years old having sex with 11, 12, and 13-year-old girls, blackmailing them, ruining their lives. If I had hair, it'd fall out. Whatever the policy is, make sure that you and your teachers are doing that. At any time or place, when the student's behavior has or is reasonably expected to have a direct and immediate impact on the orderly and efficient operations of the school, that's when you have to make sure that you intervene. When a parent makes a report to you, that enacts this. It doesn't matter anything after that, you got to deal with it. Acceptable use policies. Staff use policies, make sure your staff know those. How many of you see teachers in their room on their cell phone? Use of personal technology on school, there's one of those. Make sure you know what it is and that you remind your teachers of it often and that you enforce it. And here are our preventative measures. Administrators must ensure school procedures and protocols comply with state and local policy, must train staff on technology, bullying, harassment protocols, warning sign, reporting requirements, monitor classroom use of technology, inform parents frequently, ensure counselors are equipped with resources necessary to address bullying, monitor staff use of technology throughout the day.
Dr. Lane, could I ask a question about?
Yes, that's what we're moving. I'm just make sure I've covered all my content. All right, now the floor is open for us now. Let's have a discussion.
So I know you're probably aware that South Carolina has passed or is passing a state law banning cell phones from the instructional building starting in January, but Nation Ford chose to come up with their own policy that they're hoping is going to align with the state law and enacted it at the beginning of the school year. Now, if we knew that state law was coming and the district chose not to implement a policy yet and to wait until January, would I have the authority to do that as a principal? Or
yes.
Would I have to? Okay.
You would. Now, you wouldn't make the central office have, but nobody can give you permission to break the law or not follow the law.
Right. I'm just saying, because the state law isn't technically going into effect until January, but it's going to be pardon my French, it's going to be a shit show if they don't.
Yeah, it will be.
If they don't start it at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah, I told you, I've got a friend down in Blacksburg, so I've already heard. I know what it's going to be. You're exactly right. That's the best way to put it too. It will be. But the thing you got to remember is what the central office wants and what the law says sometimes is at odds. You always got to follow the law. And so while they may not want you to enforce the law, I'm going with the law every time. Right. I'm not worried about the public relations or the bad PR or any of that stuff. I'm going to follow the law because again, gosh, it makes me feel bad. But in Andrew's case, what happens if his school district decides not to follow the state law and some kid gets cyberbullied and kills themselves and you get sued and you find out that you was going along with this, you'll get sued right along with your district and you will lose just like they will lose. They've got insurance, you don't.
Right.
They'll sue you as an individual. There's tort liability now. They'll take your house. I'm not giving mine up for somebody else's career so they can look good. So they can, grandstand for parents, look at us, we're looking out for you. Your kids will complain and we're helping you out. No, I'm following the law every time. Every time. That's why I said I'm going to err on the side of calling the police first, rather than hope that there was nothing physical in this sexual harassment. I don't work off of hope. Hope's not a plan. Hope will get you in trouble. But that's an excellent point. That for all of our laws, I mean, this is a law class of all of our laws. You can't decide just because your district's turning a blind eye that you're going to do that. Again, it's all fun and games till somebody gets their eye put out, and then when the attorneys show up, you can't go in and argue. Well, everybody else was speeding, and you just pull me over. Were you speeding yet? Well, then you broke the law. And you can't do what Ron White said he did when he was drunk. What was it he said? That they profiled him, said they were pulling over everybody driving on that particular sidewalk. Well, I believe that's against the law to be driving on the sidewalk. I don't believe that's profiling either. That's an old Ron White joke, but I'm not a big Ron White fan, but I understand that. But the whole idea here is if you're running 70 in a 55 and you get caught and everybody else is running 70, you were still running 70 in a 55. You can't go to court and say, well, my district ignores this law. But did you know it was a law? Well, yeah. Well, then that was your decision. That was your decision to ignore the law. And if you do that, it's not going to go well for you. We have a hierarchy: federal law, state law, local board policy. Both of those supersede board policy. So if the state says you're going to do this and the local board said we're passing a policy where you don't have to do that, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. Not when you go to court. Kind of puts administrators in an awkward position, but I kind of get it in South Carolina in that, they're trying to impose their political truth rather than objective truth. I get that. But we as the little peons at the end of the line get caught up in that stuff, and we get crushed when we go to court. If you're going to sacrifice your career, it should be something you believe in, not a dang cell phone. That's, it should be something that you're trying to be on the right side, on the side of the angels, the good guys, not trying to let kids use your phone. I'm not sure that that's the golden ticket to the pearly gates there, trying to make sure kids and parents aren't inconvenienced by them not having their cell phones at school. I don't believe that. I don't believe that'll help you get into heaven. So that's not the hill I would die on. We can't do cell phones if that's what the law says.
Dr. Lamb, what about these districts that are asking that are using teachers' personal cell phones, the app, for like fire drills and intruder alerts?
No, there's two issues there. One of them is to alert me so I'll know what's going on, but using that as your system, no. What if you don't have that? What if you don't carry your phone? What if you don't have a phone? What if you don't want to put that security on your phone? I mean, I've got it on mine, and it's the most aggravating thing in the world. That Duo, I have Barracuda, Guard the Web, and Duo security on my phone. Most of the time it's just like I'm carrying a brick. I can't use it because something's locked up about it all the time. That's not supposed to be part of your safety plan. I mean, it's supposed to be an alert system. But that there should be a primary, that should be the backup system. Unless they're going to issue me a cell phone. Now, if the school district wants to issue me one, then I'm all for that. Are they going to pay my cell phone bill? My cell phone bill is like paying for a kid to go to college. I can tell you that right now. You don't know anybody that's cell phone bill as high as mine. I've got everything in the world on my phone. I've got 2 internet sources. I've got 3 emails. I've got 3 different security systems. I've got everything. There's a little AT&T shop in the little town of Forest City down in Rutherford County, in the bottom part of the county here where Lake Lure is, and they don't have hardly any business. And I take my phone down there. I have to leave it 2 or 3 days sometimes. Of course, now that crowd's like the old Amco commercial from back in the 60s. They had a commercial showing their competitors working on a transmission. They had 3 monkeys beating on it with ball bats. That's about like them 3 fellas down at the AT&T shop. Takes them about 3 days because I've got so many layers of security on my phone. I'm not kidding. I have to leave it for 3 days when I take it. But at least I can get an appointment. But you know, it is so aggravating to have all that stuff on the phone. And so I would just tell them, if you want to put an alert system that just alerts me, but now I'm not going to be part of the security plan and have to have all that level of security stuff on my phone unless you're going to pay for the phone. Now, if you want me to do that, if you'll issue me one, I'll do that. But now I'm going to tell you, with all that stuff on the phone, it gets quite expensive to have all that stuff. And the data that it uses up, I have an unlimited plan, but again, you say, well, Dale, you have an unlimited, yeah, but you know how much that unlimited plan costs for the kind of data that I use? When people sending me stuff on, you know, PDFs and documents and all those kinds of things, it's and having all these security alerts and Duo and all these apps, all these things, that stuff's not cheap. And so, you know, I would want the district to pay for me a separate phone. If you want me to have a phone that's part of the security system, then you need to provide that.
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable. You know, you need to pay your freight as a school district, not depend on employees to do that. Let's see. We're good then. All right. What else we got tonight? Anything else? I told you tonight would be a short night. When we get to the discipline night, we may go into the morning, but I try to make tonight a short night before we had a long night last time, and then we'll have a long night next time. So when we get to discipline, so I'm trying to get us out. Are we actually early tonight, getting out on an hour? Anybody got a funny story they want to tell before we go? No? All right. No need to keep you past our time. Make sure you read through all those documents. Again, I just skip through that stuff quickly. I hate when people read PowerPoints to me. I've been reading since the age of 3. I'm pretty good at it. Kind of do it for a living. So I won't do that to you because I don't like it done to me. So I will see y'all next week. I appreciate you being with me tonight. I love reading your work, so keep it coming. Give yourself a hand. I'll see you next week. Good night.